So my name is Keith Gelhorn. I'm the founder and chief empowerment officer of ADDvocacy. And what we do is we coach neurodivergent youth and adults who live with ADHD, learning disabilities, autism, anxiety, and any co-occurring mental health challenge that impacts executive functioning, which is basically your ability to start a task and end a task and all the pieces in between. So our client base currently are adults 18 and up. So we primarily deal, well, I shouldn't say 18 up, maybe 16 and up. So we'll take high school students. We have a post-secondary transition program. Post-secondary students are our biggest kind of bread and butter, I guess. We have 100% funding for Nova Scotia post-secondary students currently for as many semesters as they'd like to come for. So that was just solidified a couple months ago on August 1st. And then we also deal with individuals in career transitions. So all the post-secondaries that we do have, we have collaborations going with particular Nova Scotia Works, specifically Teamwork Cooperative and the Work Bridge in the city, but we also deal with every Nova Scotia, well, not all of them, but quite a few of the Nova Scotia Works locations around Nova Scotia. And so for that, if you are unemployed, underemployed, working in a job where you're struggling with any people not understanding accommodations, what have you, we can either find funding for you, or we also deal with some private clients as well. Hey, Laura, can you just mute your microphone just for a minute? I forgot to make sure. Yeah, there we go. And then we also deal with entrepreneurs. So just a little bit about how I got started. I was late diagnosed with ADHD back in 2008. Was it 2000? Yeah, 2008 when I was 34. So started off with a diagnosis of anxiety and depression. Those were my first two at 34 years old. Then I was describing some symptoms that I had. So I used to go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. I'd be yelling, screaming, punching walls, road raging. Reason why my knuckle is elevated like that. So I didn't quite figure out where the studs were in the wall. They were 16 inches apart. I always hit the wall and smoked that. So anyways, with that being said, I ended up getting diagnosed with adult ADHD. And once I got that diagnosis, then a bunch more stuff came out. So I also have dyslexia, dysgraphia, which is problems mixing around my words when I'm writing big content, and I talk a lot, and also with dyscalculia, so a learning disability in math, processing disorder. So I'm definitely a verbal processor, which means I do talk a lot to get my feelings and my thoughts out. And then I also have a sleep disorder as well. Anyways, those are all just clinical things that they've stamped on my head. The underlying issue are things, and this is what we coach people around, are things like organization, time management, stress and emotions management, communication skills, navigating procrastination, perfectionism, grants, government paperwork. We love helping with that, scholarships, business programs, anything like that, assistive technology, pretty much anything you can think of to improve your ability to be successful. Basically today, though, I just wanted to have a chat with the people that are on the call, because might as well chat with you guys and figure out where you're coming from. So would anybody on the call like to introduce themselves? If you are self-employed or have questions about it, let us know where you're at with that. So just your name. If you're self-employed, talk about your business or your business to be, and then share a win that happened to you in the last month, because we got to celebrate the good things. I'm going to share a massive win that I just had, but I'm going to wait until I hear back from people here. So anyways, it's going to mute this one person. So if you want to chat, and you feel like opening up, tell us who you are, where you're from, why you're here, what you want to learn, and a win potentially related to your business that you've had in the last it doesn't have to be business related. If you're working for somebody else too, feel free to say something positive that's happened in the last little while. So
Keith, I can go ahead if you want.
awesome.
So I'm Lori. I'm currently an employee at Baker Tilly, Nova Scotia, and headed in 2023 towards being self-employed, sort of. And that's, yeah, so but that's actually part of the big win. So for me, the big win has been through your help, Keith, honestly, educating the teams that I work with about neurodiversity and ADHD and accessibility and accommodations. And one of the things that I've discovered this past year is that, motivationally speaking, being an employee is not necessarily the greatest gig to have.
Really?
Punching a clock is not always awesome. So, win for me in the past has been that I don't have to punch a clock. I run my own division within the company and get to make all of the decisions related to that. I have the support of our partners who say, run it like you own it, and which is very helpful. So I get to pretend I'm an entrepreneur. But moving forward, we're actually discussing whether or not we can alter the work that I do even further so that I am still falling under the company banner, but as a contractor instead of an employee, which adds another whole layer of flexibility that I hadn't really thought about before. So that's that. I will call myself an entrepreneur regardless of what my email signature says, just because of the way that I work and think. But this is a big win for me.
Amazing. So excited for you.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Anybody else want to go?
I can go.
Right.
My name's Kim. I'm newer to the Nova Scotia area, so I actually came in 2020 in the height of COVID lockdowns. I've been a retail manager for 12 years and have been in retail for a very long time, over 20 years. And in the process of going through the seed application, so I actually just had my interview today, so that's kind of a win. Yeah, so very exciting. I'm looking to start up a mobile dog gym business where I go to people's homes and exercise their dogs in a way that allows the dog to hit the top potential of their breed without the health, safety, and space hindrances that dog parks or dog daycare or just dog walkers tend to have. So it's something that's a little bit different in the market. I would be first to the market in Nova Scotia if I can get everything up and running. And hopefully with the retail experience that I have in customer service, that will go a long way in building my business. But I'm really looking forward to being able to partner the seed program with the advocacy program to really overcome those obstacles that I've had in the past with attention to detail and time management and distractions. And, as they say, eating the frog first, doing the things that you don't always enjoy doing, and being able to focus. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. All right. Anybody else want to talk about their entrepreneurial journey or dreams or anything?
Hi, my name is Navneet.
Hi.
I live in Ontario. We moved from US last year. It's been a year.
Yep.
I am in my 40s and I'm being diagnosed for ADHD. Okay. I worked in corporate finance for about 10 years and did not know I have ADHD until my last job, where I only worked for 6 months, and I was I was so stressed out, and it was such a mental stress, and I thought there's something wrong, something is not right here, and I need to find out the answers. I quit my job, and then I'm seeing a therapist and psychologist. It's still in process. My assessment is awaited, but I'm pretty sure I have ADHD. Right now, I'm just waiting, getting connected with people and just seeing what others are doing in life, and just learning. So I don't have any business ideas right now. I all I know is there's a lot of awareness that needs to be spread out because a lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah.
So I'm just here to see what other people's ideas are and what other people are doing. So that's about
Amazing.
me. Yeah.
How'd you find out about us today, all the way over in Ontario?
I think I followed you on LinkedIn.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
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 Every
Yeah.
entrepreneur out there should be on LinkedIn 1000%.
Yeah.
You don't see
Once
the
I
tie
figured
quite
out,
yet.
I was doing a lot of search about neurodiversity in Canada, and there are very few people who are doing this work. There's a lot in UK,
Yeah.
but in Canada, there are not a lot of people who are helping other folks. So then I followed you, and then and this was ADHD Awareness Month, and you had a couple of webinars. This is the first one I'm attending, although I registered for others, but I couldn't make it to the ones you had in the past.
Oh, no worries at all. They're all going to be recorded and put on YouTube. Initially I was going to do it immediately afterwards, and then one of the guys that I actually coach is a graphic designer who's just getting his business off the ground. He just finished Seed, actually, and I was like, well, might as well make me one of your clients. So I regularly buy and exchange services with clients that I coach. That's a thing I believe big time in, is instead of us being the token people with disabilities, our little club over on this side, we're friendly and shooting business back and forth like it's going out of style. So that's something I firmly believe in, and or networking events and stuff like that. So thanks so much for joining and coming on. That's awesome.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
I appreciate it. 100%.
Yeah.
All right, we've got one last person. Denise, did you want to speak, or you want to stay on the background? If you want to stay in the background, it's all good. Oh, there they are.
Hello.
Hi. Of course you don't want to stay in the background. I know you.
Yes. I work as an employment support practitioner here at Teamwork Cooperative, and many clients that I serve are persons with ADHD. So I'm always on the quest to get any information that I can support the clients that I assist.
Awesome.
So I'm always looking for some pointers. I signed up for a few others as well.
Yeah, next week I'm going to get heavier into the pointers. This week's more like get to know everybody. So the funny thing about this little series was I had this brilliant idea literally 2 days before ADHD Awareness Month, and every year I do something. During COVID, I did a couple webinars, but nothing major. But I used to run like massive conferences back in the day. Again, whim things like, in a month, let's put it together and see what happens, and have like 100 exhibitors with all like legit for ADHD in Nova Scotia. Like I'm probably it. Back in the day, there was another nonprofit called Excalibur. They went under in 2018 though. They did more children-based stuff, but there's a lot of people, even though it doesn't say ADHD, and we all know it, we're just people too. So there's a lot of different organizations like Nova Scotia Works, Healthy Minds, Mental Health Foundation in Nova Scotia, Self-Help Connection. I could list them. I could put a mile and a half together of all the different people, financial advisors. There's all kinds of people that kind of come out of the woodwork. But my main thing over the years has always been trying to find like a continuum of services, because early on, I realized, specifically spending a lot of time in the clinical system myself, I realized that, if you're broken and you want to stay broken, you can hang out in that system, right? Because they've basically created a way for you not to really get better per se, right? Or created a false sense of you can get better and you'll grow out of this stuff. And I know I'm never going to grow out of it. I have a personal coach, a business coach, and a therapist that I see on a regular basis. I was just saying I coach people on how to get organized, but if I flip around, I got 2 bowls on the counter that sitting right in front of me that have been there for 2 days, right? It's kind of a funny one, but at the same point, right, I do realize that I need help and other people out there need help too. And bringing conversations like this together is a good way to kind of open that up. With that all being said, like I said, this started off as a 5-session series, which was just going to be Mondays at 12:30. The first one that I only had about 4 people show up. So then something called RSD kicked in. It's very much rooted around us basically like living in a top-down world, right? This is how we function, right? You have a boss, you have a teacher, you have a parent, and then you have you, right? So we're living in this top-down environment. And as kids growing up, if you tell me what to do, and I'm talking about telling me, not asking me, but you tell me what to do, I will essentially tell you to, especially as a teenager, to F off, right? I tell you what to do, I tell you where to go and how to get there. And then I also had something too, where I had the physical side of things too. So you tell me what to do, I tell you where to go and how to get there, and then I punch you in the face and I probably go to jail. Thankfully, I never did punch anybody. The only punch I ever took at a guy was I roundhoused a guy for playing Come a Chameleon on repeat on Christmas Eve about 50 times. And boy, George, great guy, but not on Christmas. not for 16-year-old Keith. Didn't appreciate that. So part of where it comes from is that by the time guys like you and me are 18, we will have been told, don't do this, don't touch that. Why are you doing things this way? Why are you doing things that way? Like 200,000 more times than our neurotypical counterparts. So how would you not, at 19 years old, carrying that baggage around, not come out with the sense of like, the world is kind of out to get me? I had no idea I was diagnosed, or I didn't know if there was anything going on because my parents refused to admit there was anything going on other than sending me to a psychiatrist in grade 9 for, at that point I was shoplifting, smoking weed, skipping school, basically telling my mom where to go and how to get there, any opportunity I can, stealing from my sister. I was a degenerate of a kid, right? Part of the reason I don't have kids of my own. I got step kids, but they were luckily raised by their mother, who's amazing, not me. But I've got a little influence on the last couple of years. I think I'm doing all right. But anyways, yeah, so I remember going to this psychiatrist. My parents paying like $400 an hour for me to go to. And the only thing I really remember from this was this guy saying like, draw your parents as if they're animals. I'm like, all right, my dad's a crab because he's crabby. My mom's a giraffe because she's tall. Like, what does this have to do with anything, right? And that was kind of my view of the clinical system until I did get diagnosed, and I had the most amazing clinical social worker. That's the thing. If you find somebody that you actually connect with, it's a night and day situation. So this lady did not, her name's Renee Canavero, based out of Kelowna, currently in retirement. I'm trying to get her out of retirement to help record a course that she made on how to help people like me with anxiety. So we're working on that for next year. But anyways, yeah, when you have the people that are actually on your corner, like that's a question. Has anybody ever met somebody along their path that has changed the course of where you're going? Like stopped you in your tracks and took you in a different direction, but a good direction. Anybody ever experienced an experience with somebody like that before? It's amazing when you get those people in your circle, right? And you're like, you ever feel like how do I meet these people? Because I surely do. Like before I got diagnosed, and I look around the people that, for the most part, that surrounded me, especially in my early 20s. So what I've done, just for those of you who are entrepreneurs, this is a strategy. There's 2 ways to do customer discovery. One, cold call a bunch of people or go out in the street and do it the hard way. Or 2, do focus groups. So give some value, but then also see who's tuning in. So just a point of reference, I have like 150 people that registered for these 19 webinars that I'm doing. And I know who's signing up for what and where. I'm not a spammer guy. I don't even have I have an email list of about 25,000 people that I have not actually put into any sort of use. Number one, I hate getting spammed. And number two, somebody told me I had to segment those 25,000 people. I'm like, forget that. I got better things to do than sit down and figure that out. So one of my new employees will figure that out for me at some point. But yeah, so yeah, we're coming back to it. We're very empathetic people. We care a lot. And if we can find somebody that's willing to help us out, or if we could be of service, that's the other thing. Like, I'll take a call from anybody. I do these calls like kind of like I'm doing now every Monday. Talk to like 8-9 people a day. Some people turn into customers, some people don't, some people leave with a whole bunch more. And I don't spend a nickel on advertising, nothing like that. I just believe in the power of word of mouth and being nice to people. Anybody else have somebody of influence who's ever been there? I know, Denise, you are a woman of influence. That's what you do in your job. Can you maybe talk about it from a flip perspective, like a client you've had in the past who's come in, benefited from working? Let's hear a nice client story from Team.
Actually, I do have a story for you. So I do have
Awesome.
a client who has ADHD. She struggled in the past with in employment in specific fields. Came to me, completely changed her field, still related to her degree, but completely changed her field, and has found her niche. She disclosed her employer is very supportive, basically said, whatever you need, we will do for you. And it really showed me, and I've actually had another client, the same thing. So sometimes it's the manager, sometimes it's the department or the type of job that they're in. But the minute they get into a position and an employer that is supportive, it makes all the difference, The other thing she has shared with me is she's extremely articulate about having ADHD. So she's one of the few clients that I work with that is really educated me, right?
Right.
How the ADHD brain works, the thing about time blindness, she explained that to me, which explained a lot of why all of a sudden something is a big, catastrophe, they didn't see it coming.
Yep.
So I found that has been very, very eye-opening for me, to get really good articulate what it's like to have ADHD, but also really see how the right employer and the right job can make a world of difference. So she's been very, very successful in the role she's doing now.
Yeah, I think about a lot of the jobs that I've had over the years, and I won't even count the early ones because I was just a ticking time bomb. But in my later years as a plumber, so I'm a Red Seal plumber and a gas fitter. So that's what I did between the ages like 28 and 36, 35, I guess. And when people would give me, you sit around the toolbox meeting in the morning, right? And they're like, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. And we're going around the room with 20 people. And it would get to me and I'm just like paying attention to everything else that was going on, go in one ear, out the other. So one of the things I got was I would always try to find like a keener apprentice. That was the number one thing I'd always try to find. Secondly, I had a foreman notice that if he kept me on one job, so if I just did water pipe and that was it for 9 months, I could kill it faster than anybody else. But if you ever asked me to do a deficiency, which is basically go and clean up somebody else's mess, I would lose it. Just like you said, right? When like I expect to walk into the day, I have the whole thing planned out and I'd visualize this whole thing in a 3D model in my brain. That's kind of I think in metaphors. I don't think in verbiage to the point actually, when I was talking with Jeff, who's another Teamwork client, in the Go 3D continuous stream, he's about to come in there anyways. He just finished seed. Was talking to Jeff and said, like I've always wanted to write a book, and I've actually just finished 2 books from another teamwork client that I hired to Kendra, who's like a rock star. So just a quick note on Kendra. She was working for one of your other trophy, you know who I'm talking about. I won't say the names, but a writing company, we'll put it that way, who hires a whole whack of teamwork clients. And Kendra wrote an 80,000 word book for this person in the fall. And then with no instruction, no nothing, say, hey, free will, have at her. So she writes this whole book, and then he comes back and said, hey, we're going in a different direction. Scrap that book, do this instead. After she's already written the freaking thing, right? And so all she did was ask for clarification, but because she's on the spectrum, it can come across a little curt if you don't know. And then she just got fired. It was just like, boom, you're done, you're out. You know, like, and I coached her all the way through while she was doing that. So then in the spring, it kind of rolled around, and she's like, well, I got all this funding left for wage subsidy, which is another reason I'll talk. So Teamwork Cooperative has a whack of wage subsidies that you can get as an employer to hire people from them. So I got this wage subsidy for 6 months for $15 an hour, fully covered. And anyways, I was like, listen, I don't have a job for you. I'm slower than dirt in the summer, generally speaking. I'll give you it just to give you something to do, but I really have nothing for you in the end, right? So, and I said, you know, I've got a whole whack of unfinished documents and stuff that I've got sitting in my inbox. The long and the short, she took one book that I had 90% done, turned it into 2 books. So one for students, one for adults, both like 150-page executive function workbooks, all the way down to the ISBN and ready to publish. And it was me who freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, nobody's buying books anymore. I don't want to spend 10 grand on publishing these things. We will be getting them published. I promised her that by the end. I said, let's just go to Staples. We can each get a copy. So by October 31st, I'm going to sit on this screen and show up one of these published books that, and she's going to be an editor on it. So that's the other cool thing. And then, so that started it. Then she wrote a proposal that I landed with this guy, Dr. Gurdeep Pahar from the Adult ADHD Center in BC. Literally shot it over to her, just a chicken scratch idea on a piece of paper. Hey, can you get this for me by tomorrow night? Because I want to go pitch it. I pitched it to this doctor. He's blown the frick away. So long story short, him and my company. So he does adult ADHD assessments for $300 with a nurse practitioner. He actually diagnosed Alana, one of my head coach, which anyways, started off doing that for free. And I'm like, how do you do this for free? And then he's just a good guy, man. He's just like an awesome guy and doctor, but acts like your buddy, right? And so anyways, I threw this pitch together. It was like 4 or 5 pages, this huge, like really off the cuff idea, but Kendra just made it mint, made it look nice, slapped it in, shook hands over that in the summer. And then, and now actually later this afternoon, I'm meeting with his marketing and PR person, and we're basically building a business plan for a whole new business based on that particular model. So as she's coming out, she's also was a social worker, but in that field, working in social work with all the rules and regulations, which Denise knows I'm not a huge fan of, right? Like I hate, I can't talk about it, but I'm not a big fan of the structure, right? Or at least if they gave me structure, I'd be a fan, but they don't. So anyhow, so she also struggled in there. But I said, hey, you want to do some coaching from 2-factor? She has ADHD, but also she's on the spectrum, which to me is a massive asset. I've got tons of clients on the spectrum, and this is just to help me understand dealing with them. And then she also was like coaching me through some hard times because I was freaking out going into this business with Dr. Pahar. I started turtling, right? So this is an entrepreneurial thing when sometimes you get little opportunities, sometimes you get massive opportunities. And if you get the massive opportunities and you're not ready with the structure, the whole thing can implode. So I kind of went inwards, and she coached me all the way out of it. She's like, you got to call him. If you just call him and have a conversation, I guarantee he's going to be nice to you and it's going to go well. And I kept procrastinating. And finally she's like, okay, today's the day. She's like, do I need to call him for you? And I said, no, I'll do it. And called him up, and we're instantly fine after that. Right. And so we're basically building out something called the Adult ADHD Academy, where, so literally on his site, he used to offer the diagnosis, therapy, right? So more of the, like cognitive behavioral therapy and coaching. The minute I called him out, he dropped the coaching, right? And he said, you do it. I said, all right. So I went from like this dead summer to just exploding with clients over the summer, to the point where we were full with our current staff before September even hit, right? So I rolled into this full blown best year ever. And now I started hiring a bunch of contract coaches to help fill in the gap. Anyway, so that happened. And then today, another thing just happened. So there's another local business. Actually, I got to look up his name because I can't even remember it. But the website's called beyondadhd.ca. Dr. Pahar's site is adultadhdcenter.com. This one's beyondadhd.ca. So with Dr. Pahar, he deals with adults 18 and up. So that's always been kind of my wheelhouse too. So it's a perfect fit. But I have a whack of parents and youth call in as well. And just because of the timing, because everything's after hours, school hours, it's hard to fit all in. But so we've kind of moved away from it to the point where I said to my web guy, just take off anything to do with middle school and parents. 2 weeks ago, literally happened 2 weeks ago, and had been sitting on my site for like 5 years, right? So anyways, so this guy, I reached out to him and I said, I hear you've got this clinic that you're running out of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. Can we have a chat? And so we had a chat today with the doctor, not for 5 minutes like you usually get with a doctor. For 2 hours we were chatting and everything was aligning perfectly, and I was all excited that he did these diagnoses from 6 to 18 for same price, around $300, right? And he can do it immediately. So you call him today, he has somebody ready to go to do the diagnosis like today. And I was like, that is incredible, right? And so anyways, we're having a mutual feel good session for 2 hours. And anyways, so he's like, let's get a meeting with me, him, and Dr. Pahar, so he can do the kid stuff. Dr. Pahar could do the adult stuff. And he literally said, send me your stuff. I'm replacing all the coaching with you today too. Right. So that's the biggest kickoff. So Mark, when you're like, hey, I wonder if there's maybe a way to collaborate or whatever. So part of that is we're building like Dr. Pahar and I, and who knows, I don't care who comes in it. We're building basically another business, spin-off business. It's called, well, it was called the Adult ADHD Academy, but if this other guy comes into it, we'll have to play around with the wording on it. But literally what I'm after is a social enterprise model where under the umbrella, you have the diagnosis that's done cheap or pretty much free, comparatively speaking. And I know beyond ADHD for the kids, I think you can get it covered through MSI because the nurse practitioners are local. So that's even better, and get it done like immediately versus waiting. This delusion of needing a psych ed assessment is nothing more than a delusion. The only time you need that is if you suspect you might have something heavier duty, like a learning disability that they might be able to identify, or autism is another reason you need the big, $2,500 to $3,500 diagnosis. But other than that, it's just a big racket that somebody's put together. For ADHD, we just need to know, do we have it or do we not? Try medication if that's a route you want to go, and then get help either through a clinician or a coach or whoever, depending on the level that you're at. I personally went through like clinical social worker to start for, like I said, 2.5 years. and then started coaching. It depends on where you're at. Clinical is basically, they help you understand why you think and act and feel the way you do from a clinical perspective from childhood up to today. And then coaches basically, they talk, or up to yesterday, I should say. Coaches are about what's happening today and moving into the future usually in a shorter term package. Like I usually go 3 to 4 months, depending on the client, to start with, and then playing the long game. So one of the things that I haven't included over the years is once they're done, then what? Right. So once they're done, usually I'm like, hey, it's time, by week 8, I'm like, who do you have as a mentor, or Mark, who do you have as a friend that's like buddying up with, somebody that you can connect with, so this keeps going, so you don't fall off the radar. But what's happening now, well, it's not now, it's not even recent, it's just because I was so busy doing the one-to-one coaching, I didn't have time to get in the headspace for it. But what's happening now, I've got a couple clients right now, they're like, well, we don't want this to end. And I also don't want to continue charging them $150 an hour either. So I'm like, let's create a long-term, same day, same time every week group coaching program where we have like the OGs, right? The people that have been in it for a while to help from a peer perspective. And we're going to just have it classified. So we'll have currently, before I even had this conversation this morning, I already have a group like that going for post-secondary students. I have the entrepreneurship group. I've been running it as a pilot, waiting for the good news, hoping for the good news since March. Started off being like three months, once a month, to go down to weekly. And we got an awesome little community going there now, where I also feel safe to share when I'm having my ups and downs, and the whole group comes in and helps me too, which is amazing to be able to get paid to do something like that, where you don't have to have the hierarchy and dress in the suit. This is my $9 shirt from Giant Tiger, and I'm not afraid to admit it. And actually, as a matter of fact, what do you guys think about this? So I used to, in all my things, I have my I'm in my suit with my green shirt because that's my power move, but that's not where I feel comfortable. What I wear all the time is I wear overalls. And my friend Lee is so this is my little carving. So Lee Nicholas is also a teamwork cooperative client. She was in the self-employment benefits program at Seed, where I coached her. While I was coaching her, we had a little incident where we shared something pretty hardcore back in the day. Both of us were feeling down and out, and we'll just leave it at that. We bonded over it, became quick friends. I said, you totally should be a coach. Teamwork paid for her to go to coaching school, as a matter of fact. And she does coaching with me. She co-facilitates that group. But anyways, I was saying to Jeff, I said, for the next little branding thing, because I want to start doing these like videos and webinars and stuff like that. I was like, I want this guy, like overall Keith, to be the guy out there, not wearing, like, I would love to go and show up to the big network event I'm going up to on Wednesday, wearing my Carhartts and my overalls, right? So anyways, this is going to be my new guy with my big hands, because that's what I like to do at times, look at my big hands. Anyways, it's kind of cool. But yeah, so that's I guess my big news right now is that I'm rolling out these new programs with these hopefully 2 doctors. And literally the guy today phoned, he's like, hey, we do kids and adults, but I understand you're already doing the adult stuff with Parhar, so forget that part. We'll just do like the 6 to 18. I was like, you know what? I can find you clients like it's going out of style and just shove it over. And I'll just give you a point of reference on how this all works. So last week I was doing a little pitch for St. Mary's University. Tried to get in there for years, but for whatever reason, they don't send clients. But anyways, somebody from Nova Scotia Works now works in the career department side of things. So she invited me in, and I met with another guy, Bill Travis, who will be talking not this Friday, but the next Friday. And anyways, they were just sharing a little story. Here's the way to get business as an entrepreneur. So they're like, hey, we just had donor donate $25,000 to get these ADHD diagnosis for students. And I was like, oh, well, that's good. That's good for like 8 to 10 at most assessments, probably more like 5. And he's like, no, we got this great deal. This doctor out of Alberta, we'll do them for $800. And I was like, okay, good. So that's 30, right? That's pretty decent, right? And I was like, how about this? How about, and I'm doing this literally, I'm texting Dr. Pahar at the same time, like, get your director to reach out to them. Here's the number. Here's all the contact information. How about this? I give you 80 assessments. We can start them tomorrow. We can have them done by Christmas. And with prescription, because most students that are coming in, well, there's 12% of the population here doesn't have a doctor. So we can get your prescription rolled out, go from there. And so Dr. Pahar is like, well, that's good for you. For me, I was like, yeah, I made you 25 grand in, 10 minutes. He's like, how do you benefit? And I said, well, I get 1,900 for every student goes through. 1,900 times 80, right? It's about $150,000 worth of work in a 2-minute conversation, right? Boom, done. So that's yeah, again, ways to make money. I don't have a commission or anything with him. He doesn't have one with me. It's a mutually beneficial thing. All the people in my group, hopefully if you guys do come on Friday, it's at a weird time. It's 9:30 to 11. My little networking group, come on into that. You learn about the Go 3D program. That's a cool program that's funded through Employment Nova Scotia. A multi-million-dollar project. That's all I'm going to say. I know the amount, but I'm not going to say it. But anyways, if this year goes well, as it seems to be, they've got like 53, I think, participants right now. If that goes well, they have till September, I think, to prove the concept. And if that goes well, then it'll go Nova Scotia wide, right? So everybody that's in there could be all part of this happening. So right now it's happening between Halifax or HRM and New Glasgow are the two pilot sites. But if it goes well, it'll go Nova Scotia wide. Anyways, that's a big verbal diarrhea point, chat my mouth off. But anyways, that's my big news. Anybody have anything they want to share? I'm just going to do about an outward momentum piece. So anybody have anything coming up between now and say the end of the month? I'm all about one thing with ADHD. If you want to help us a lot, I know Denise, you're always looking for tips. So the big thing is help. So I try to look at the big picture, right? So I try to live my life in quarters, essentially, not the traditional quarters. It's just the quarters that work in my head. My quarters, or no, thirds actually, is September to December. That's fall semester. January to April is spring semester, and then May through August is usually development, but it's like now I'm going to have stuff to do because now I'm going to get a whole bunch of group coaching courses starting for that. That's really excited about that. But yeah, does anybody have anything that they want to share in terms of announcements moving forward or things that they're excited about, networking, pass things on, anything that I've shared?
I'm really excited about the networking. I love that you're doing these little groups that are like you said, rather than connecting with people at your level or lower,
yes,
you're connecting with peers and people who are successful, or like Mark said, meeting someone who's inspirational, who's successful, who is doing the things that you've longed to do or dreamed to do. Listening to an audiobook now, Atomic Habits, which is really good.
Okay.
Can't retain any of it for more than 5 minutes, but
Nope.
it's really good. I'll listen to it once every few months, whatever.
Okay.
One of the concepts though is in terms of developing habits, to meet and engage with the people who are where you want to be.
Yep.
Who are doing the things who are in effect the person who you want to become. Just level up the people you're hanging around with.
Yep.
And I find that you can imagine working in the field that I work in, the number of networking events that get thrown my way, but the most impactful ones have been the ones where there are neurodiverse people in the group, where I can learn or share, because I've lived a long time. And so there's a lot of things that I've learned that I like sharing. And there's a lot of things that even this group today, I've learned things from being on this call today. And so thanks for putting these type of things together. And I'm excited in your fall quarter to keep joining these sessions and learn more about what neurodiverse entrepreneurs are doing and how we can help each other. It's great.
Yeah, so there'll be one, just a point of reference that are going to start for sure in the New Year's. I was actually supposed to launch one this week, but I booked myself too solid with one class. I don't have any time to do it, to launch it. But I pre-sold 10 of them at $2,500 a pop, including the diagnosis. So there you go. There's 12. I think that was 30 grand, right? Right in one shot. But anyways, with that being said, yeah, so we'll have the post-secondary group. That's included in my coaching that I do with post-secondary students. I'm going to have a blue collar. I hate using blue collar, white collar, but it's appropriate because I'm going to have the guys I could shoot the S with, and the other people I should probably be a little bit mind my P's and Q's a little bit more. That might require me to put on a better collar shirt, but I have a blue collar and a more of a white collar group, and then also one for entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurship one is, I specifically prefer working with people in the first 7 years of business type thing, but I'm not immune to having people come in at higher levels. I like the small companies though. Like most of the guys most of the people that are in my Friday group are artists, graphic designer, like creative type. I've got Amy Grant. She owns Pink Lanou, so stuff around First Nations rights and equity inclusion stuff. She's in there. I don't know, a bunch of different. I'm just trying to think of who else. Yeah, bunch of different types, but usually kind of the solopreneur, or just getting started. But I'm not the guy that's doing your business plan of financials and all the stuff. And Lori, I'm not touching numbers. I can't even barely even read my own what's the word, my something sheet that has all
just be really careful though with the labels, because some of us who you might think belong in that world where we're doing the business plans are more blue collar at heart than you could ever imagine.
Oh, and I agree with that. It's
we might appear to function in a different world, but
true.
I'm gonna go and my dad taught me to solder pipes when I was 12, so
amazing.
I'm gonna go do some of your type of home repairs and shooting the shit with the blue collar group. I think that might be where I belong actually. So
yeah, it could be that. That's the thing, right? There's two levels to it. But yeah, and that's the thing. You welcome to join whomever. The first group that's going to start, Lori, just as a point of reference, of these two women I've been coaching for a long time now. One's medical, she's doing her residence for medicine, and then another one's in insurance. But they're two awesome people. The one in medicine, she keeps coming back and buying another 12 blocks of sessions. I'm like, you know what, let's stop you buying blocks. Let's get you in a group and with other people who are in the same boat, and just so you have some additional support and a bigger network. That I've always just wanted to build like a nice community, right? And also have the community be able to proceed, right? So whether it's work accommodations to entrepreneurial accommodations, just life, right? I know I'm going to get a parenting one going now because I got this parenting opportunity. So all kinds of opportunities out there. That's the thing. You just keep looking. That's the one thing with ADHD and entrepreneurship. We will get annihilated left, right, and center as entrepreneurs, but we still keep coming back because the thought of my dad's my accountant now. He's one to bail me out of that disaster from 2019, and every time I get overwhelmed, I'm like, I quit. And he's like, cool, where are you going to get a job? He always, I think he does it for reverse psychology. He's like, you've always talked about being a truck driver. Why don't you just go do that? And then I think of what a waste. 11 years I've put into this, and anything wrong with driving a truck, because I used to do that job and I freaking loved it. But no, I'm sticking by my guns, and I just keep grinding through it. So, all right. So if nobody else has anything to add, you can always reach out to me if you like. The best way to reach me is through my website. So it's ADDvocacy.org. That's advocacy spelt with 2 D's. I'll put it down in the chat below. So ADDvocacy. Can't even spell it myself, but it was a pretty good play on words when I was looking up in the dictionary what started with ADD. It was really good up until they took ADD out of the DSM, and now it's ADHD, just inattentive type. However, one of my mentors, Susan Elridge, another person, she was a business advisor at Seed and NSCC actually. She told me it's like, no, it's like adding advocacy. You don't have to change your branding or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. That's a good way to come about it. So you can book a website through, or book a call through there. The best way to reach me is not by email or phone. It's 100% book a call. I don't try to sell you anything. Mark can attest, Kim can attest, Lori can attest. It's not what I'm there to do. Just have a conversation, learn about your backstory, kind of where you want to go, what your challenges are and your goals are. If I can attach you to some funding or anything like that, of course I'm going to mention it, but ultimately it's just to have a chat to see what you're up to and if it's something that we can help with, and if we can't help, then to refer out. I probably send to Denise or Teamwork Cooperative on average, I'd say probably 75 to 100 people a year just in that loop alone, right? Where I could potentially take them in the house, but it makes more sense to pass them on. Anyways, so that's that.